Welcome back. Okay, we go back to one of our leading stories then. ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula says the party's National Executive Committee has agreed to reconfigure the provincial executive committees of both the KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng provinces. Now, Mbalula outlined the party's decision earlier today. Both KZN and Gauteng had performed, of course, dismally in last year's elections. Let's get some analysis. Earlier on, we spoke to our very own Stephen Grootes. This time around, Sandile Swana, political analyst, joins us to get a hold of this conversation. Sandile, thank you so much for the time. Your sense of this decision then made by the ANC, it seemingly has taken a lot of time. May was 8 months ago.
Oh, thank you so much, Arabile, and again, good afternoon to your viewers. Yes, the decision has taken a long time for them to come about, and the decision is still vague. But when I say it has taken a long time as well, is that the ANC, in terms of the aggregate results in a local government election, they got 45.84. In 2016, they fell for the first time in aggregate below majority in Gauteng. Already in 2016, they lost about 15% from the previous 2011 election. So they've allowed the slide in Gauteng to go on for a long time, and that started declining in actual fact already in 2009, and they never took action. So we don't know really and truly, when you look at the percentages, this game has been lost long, long ago.
Let me ask this then with regards to the ANC in itself. And I spoke about this earlier, and I asked Stephen Grootes, and I said, are we facing an existential situation here? A situation where the ANC is looking for sustainability and ability to stay alive when it feels like everybody else is eating their lunch, and having to do this means that they're trying to find a way to stay alive?
Yes, at least they could do this to stay alive, but not to prosper, because the culture, if you look at the actual statistics, the culture of decline is well embedded. One would hope that mathematically the settling point, the settling point is around 30%, that they are at 30% in Gauteng, and that is it. KZN is another story, but Gauteng, 30% party. I do not see all of these leaders being able to change this picture, because they've allowed it, they've been involved in it, they've allowed it to decline for so long. They were present when the decline has happened.
So what does this decision then change? What does it actually change for the ANC?
And what it changes, not for the ANC per se, but for the factions of the ANC, which is the point that Mbalula has been trying to avoid and to drive journalists away from that point. That if we're looking at the numbers, these people have lost from 68.74 to 36. So they're only to 36 by 2024. So basically, Ramaphosa's faction probably is trying somehow to limit the movement of any other faction that might be out there, and to have a hand in it. Otherwise, and to try and create some tunadereng with the DA or whatever it is, but it cannot be performance. I have not heard the nitty-gritty, the nuts and bolts of how they are going to resuscitate the ANC to be a fully functional organization that can get 70% in Gauteng.
So how is the leader then still intact? How is not just the leadership, but President Cyril Ramaphosa as well? How is he still intact?
The politics of the ANC is that everybody is compromised ethically. A lot of them are in corruption. Everybody has got to accommodate everyone. When they talk about unity, what is it that is dividing them other than corruption? Ramaphosa has been unfit to lead South Africa for a very long time. He's not fit even now to lead South Africa, nor to lead the ANC, but they talk about unity instead of actually implementing fundamental change to actually bring in high capability, high productivity leaders into key positions to rebuild the ANC so that they can have a government that actually works.
Speaking of presidents as well, Sandile, I said to you that I would continue to interrupt, unfortunately, because we are following live proceedings out of the United States. President-elect Donald Trump then is on his way with elect First Lady then as well, Melania Trump, as they head off to church service then at this moment in time then. As you can tell, of course, it's all in preparation, of course, as we head towards that inauguration later this evening, 7 p.m. SA time is when we'll be following that, of course, then. But President Trump there, of course, headed off to church service. Let's remember as well that that inauguration will be happening indoors inside the Senate building, not unlike previous years where you would see the Washington Green actually being visited and seen by quite a few people then, including spectators. And this time around, because of the cold, Donald Trump himself actually saying that he's worried as well for the horses that seem to have to be part of this time as well. The procession will happen, of course, to the Capitol itself. You have the Vice President swearing-in ceremony. Then we will have the swearing-in ceremony for the President himself. After that, President Donald Trump will then have his inaugural address. Of course, an honorary departure of the outgoing president and vice president. That's President Joe Biden, as well as Jill Biden, then will, of course, have their honorary departure. The signing ceremony, which the new presidents will sign, including nominations, memorandums, etc. All of that also anticipated to happen, including the inaugural luncheon, which is said to happen a little bit later as well today. So that's pretty much the procession, the anticipated stances from here on, as we anticipate to see Donald Trump then attend not just this church service, but really be inaugurated then as president then of the United States. I am still joined by political analyst Sandile Swana. Sandile, just to ask your sense then, the ANC's stance and South Africa with regards to the United States and the change of the guard as we're seeing it there, and of course what Trump's second term perhaps looks like for South Africa and Africa.
Trump's stand towards Africa, obviously, historically, the Americans, including the outgoing Biden, has been negative and unfavorable. But in the meanwhile, China has made strides in Africa, and they are trying to contest China. So they've made big investments recently in Africa that are continuing. I mean, building a whole transportation system from the Atlantic Ocean in Lobito, right across Zambia, across to Tanzania, Dar es Salaam. So that's a major investment. And certain countries, maybe even the SADC structures, could tap into that in a big way. So otherwise, our relationship with them have got to be commercial, win-win types of relationships.
But do they matter as much to us? Does the United States matter as much as it used to South Africa especially? And I don't just mean in terms of influence, but I mean in terms of economic stance, in terms of trade as much as they're used to, in terms of economic policy, in terms of driving things like freedom across the world as well. Do all those things still matter? Is the United States still the leader?
The United States, it does not lead our exports. It does not lead our imports. All of that comes from China. The IMF has signaled that for the next 5 years, the global economic growth will come from the BRICS countries, not from the EU, not from the United States of America. So there is a need for South Africa to strengthen its ties with the fastest growing economies, including those economies like China that are leading certain critical technologies going forward. So we don't need to be fighting with the United States where we can make win-win deals. We should make those win-win deals, but we should not be bullied by the United States of America.
Yeah, and I think it's a lot of that bullying that has been of great concern to South Africans at large as well, because it feels as though that they've always held that stance. If I bring in that that China conversation, though, China itself has also had some weaknesses as well, right? Not just with regards to the tariffs that have been instituted, but certainly also with its own growth model. Under 5% growth is what is anticipated to pretty much happen for last year as well. They have a weakened stance too. Is the stance that America is taking actually working for itself and for everybody else?
I think there are many major thinkers who will tell you that the stance that Donald Trump is taking, or that the Americans have taken of hostility towards China, has not benefited the Americans to the degree that they would have thought. And there are many impressive things that have happened in favor of the Chinese so far. The stimulus package relative to, which was designed to actually neutralize or to diminish the impact of sanctions in China, was launched in September, which was with only 3 months remaining. That is, with that limited 3 months period, it has brought them close to the 5%. So I think there are many major economies who've agreed that China has achieved this target for the preceding year, which is 2024. And the package then will have its full effect in this year, which is 2025, and in the years that are coming. So we expect China to be able to weather the storm.
Sandile, I know I just drew you into this conversation unexpectedly as well. Of course, all of it was just happening at the same time. So really appreciate you joining us as well and helping us unpack, yes, the Provincial Executive Committee sentiments that we're getting out of the ANC in that reconfiguration of Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal's leadership, but also then the conversation around the inauguration of Donald Trump then and J.D. Vance as his deputy as well. Appreciate that, and we'll hopefully continue this conversation, of course, across the days.